And welcome back to the WGLNA Gold League Season 1. I'm your host, Christian Toma. To my left, as always, is David Williams. Make sure to check us out on Facebook and YouTube, /WGLNA. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on Twitter, @WGLNA. Also, BattleViewer.com. If you're watching this anywhere but BattleViewer, stop right now, open up a new tab, close the current one, type in BattleViewer.com and experience this with a lot of fun additives, and it's a great experience for the communities all hanging out, watching these matches. If you're just now tuning in, also we have the question of the day, which you can answer, which is, David, what do we got?
Who do you think will go undefeated this season, if anyone?
Yeah, well, we already answered those questions. Apparently it's not going to be 07, as High Voltage just dominated them 5-0 in our last matchup. But coming up, match number 2, we have Team Rival versus Maple Freedom. Now, David, both of these teams coming out of the Silver League for Season 5, but Team Rival so far proving that they are the better team right now in this Season 1 Gold League. Maple Freedom really needs to pick up a win, very quickly. But what kind of advantage do you think that these two teams have? Obviously, playing each other in the Season 5 Silver Leagues, do you think this is kind of be like a repeat from what they just saw?
That would certainly be interesting. Rival has certainly grown very quickly. I see Maple also gathering their experience and improving very quickly as well. But I think Rival right now has the competitive advantage, and pretty much you said it. They both played each other in Silver League.
Yeah.
This is their rival debut in Gold League.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, we'll see how kind of both of these teams have played in the Silver Leagues, maybe getting hints to certain kind of tactics that we don't see here in the Gold Leagues. But let's take a look at those rosters. Obviously, roster changes doing well for High Voltage in the first match. David, who are some players to look out for on both these teams?
Rival just lost Swipple to Elevate. That is one thing that is worth mentioning in this whole thing. But the question you asked was who to look out for. I would say Valkyrie Viewus for Rival is a very important person. And then, out of Maple Freedom so far, no real all-star is showing up. So perhaps this is the match in which they get to demonstrate that we should be watching a specific person. So I hope they come with it.
All right, well, the challenge is on, ladies and gentlemen, as we're into our second match of the night, Maple Freedom versus Team Rival. We're going to start this one out on steps. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into that. We've got Team Rival on the offense, Maple Freedom on the defense. David, what do we got for tanks?
With Team Rival, we have an RU-251, 5 T-54 lightweights, and a T-37. Meanwhile, Maple Freedom, a T-32 5 T-54 lightweights and a T-21. I'm going to go ahead and actually retract a previous statement. Mr. Man, if I remember correctly, has been doing quite well for Maple Freedom, so perhaps he is the person to watch out for on that team. However, I will reiterate, this is the match for anyone on that team to point out that they are a great player and to really come back and capitalize on kind of the overall developing gameplay that they all have going on. Team Rival moving into the East right off the bat here. And an interesting set of positions. Kind of spread.
Yeah, they seem very spread out. One thing we were talking about earlier is this Eastern Cap, David. You kind of mentioned how it's a lot easier to defend and a lot harder to assault. So if you are going to assault it, which it looks like Team Rival may be doing, or maybe they're just spotting, but if you were to assault this, what are some of the key factors that you need to have in place to make sure that it goes your way?
Well, you want to be dragging. Isolation is always one of the most important things, right? But with a T-32 like that, you want to kind of drag it so that its turret is broadside so you can hit it from these different positions. But right now, really, I mean, without an artillery, there's only a handful of things that that Rival can do on offense here. And for them, it's just a matter of pulling Maple Freedom around until at least one of their tanks is kind of separated from the rest, and overmatching, putting as many tanks as you can on it. So perhaps this is their overall goal, moving east, dragging Maple Freedom into the southeast, and then blitzing back up the west and coming over the top, perhaps picking up Felix or even Veggie in his T-32. And that'd be a nice kind of classic way of getting an advantage on this map, but I don't know if it would be able to hold up to some of the more experienced teams as it moves forward in the meta. Not that that's what anybody needs to be worrying about right now, because that's not who they're playing.
Sure. Now, one thing I do want to kind of point out, if I remember correctly, Maple Freedom were the ones who actually upset Team Rival in this Season 5 and were the victors. It was a big upset that happened. Do you think that kind of plays into the mind here of Maple Freedom knowing that they've beaten this team before, or looking at this Gold League, do you think they've seen that, wow, Team Rival's actually really improved? We need to step up our game.
It always helps to know if you've beaten a team before, but it can go both ways, right? Now that they've played you, They know things about you that they may not have known before. In almost any situation, there is a way of getting in your own head about it. And really, it all just comes down to trying to play as much like a robot as possible. Ice cold, efficient. You know, everything that you're doing is logical, and that's it. That's all you're looking for. No emotion. You do not want to play with emotion in this kind of game, as it typically gets the advantage of you, or it takes advantage of you and causes you to lose. So, better for both teams not to worry about the past. Only focus on what they're doing right now, what they can see right now, and what they need to do right now.
Valkyrie taking a little bit of damage up there in the RU-251. A very classic spot we see teams go to on offense if they're trying to go for this northern cap, trying to punish any teams that come up and try to get that reset. And now 3 minutes and 55 seconds left on the clock. A lot of time going by. Rival spending a good chunk of their resources down in that southern end, just kind of where they spawn, going for the eastern cap. But like you said, they didn't really have an artillery or any way that you saw they could deal with it. And it seems like they heard you, because they now are putting cap pressure on the northern side. Let's see how Maple Freedom can respond here. All, again, bunch up in the north. We have HK and World War II Fanatic still very spread out. Usually, when we see this, David, a lot more of the tanks for Team Rival are up on the northern side. But
here we go.
Maple Freedom going to go ahead and do a really solid push, maybe knowing or hopefully guessing that not too many tanks are there. Mr. Man, give me the first one to come over. Urtai is the one who was spotted. A lot of his shots going across. He's going to try to go. Bobby trying to pick him up. No one picks him down. They're going to keep running. The turrets are turned, but Morphic gonna find Urtai there in that T-54, and the shots have been fired as Django taking a lot of damage in that T-54 as well. Maple Freedom over now owning the side of this railroad tracks. Django trying to go up and help, but he will be fine. Veggie picking him up from the T-32 over there in the valley. Now Hull getting completely destroyed. This 4 group on Maple Freedom coming through and absolutely owning the side of the railroad tracks. Valkyrie trying to do as much damage as he can on top. Bobby one more shot away. Anubis trying to look for him. He will pick him up, but he himself is going to go take him down. Now just Valkyrie up on top here. Maple Freedom just going to push their way up. One more shot. He will go down out of sight. Looks like he's going to look for that one. He does. Now just 2 tanks remain for the side of Rival. World War II Fanatic and HK. World War II Fanatic kind of stuck out there. Felix coming around. The rest of Maple Freedom coming to respond. And Maple Freedom looks like they're gonna clean this one up here on the first round of defense.
I wonder, can a Valkyrie carry itself to Valhalla? I'm not entirely sure about that.
We'll check that on replays.
He's about to find out in that situation, because rip, that was rough. Maple showing pretty strong initiative coming over the top there. I can't say objectively if it's always a good idea or not. Perhaps they had a little bit more intel or prior knowledge about how Rival operates to make that kind of play than I knew about. It's a risk. It's certainly not a bad idea. Not just objectively terrible, don't get me wrong, or
Sure.
even bad at all. And it certainly was the right move to make in that situation, given the overmatch they had. I think Rival responded poorly in several ways. Maple taking that all the way to the bank.
Yeah. Oh, one thing we were talking about is, like, I was starting to say before, Maple Freedom started acting on it, was whenever we see the offensive team go for that northern cap, they usually put more teams up there on the other side of the railroad and keep maybe just one back, making sure they don't get flanked. But their Rival had a couple members now sitting in the back. Was that the weakness there? Obviously, Maple Freedom capitalized on that.
There are actually other positions not over the rail lines that can fire over the rail lines, and that's where you see a lot of other teams kind of post up, and they can fire in a multitude of directions and prevent that from happening. One of the biggest problems is not being able to see all those 54s coming after you. Somewhere along the line, you have to have that vision. There's a number of ways to get it, but it was just too late by the time Rival saw it coming in. Not a whole lot to discuss in stats. I'll just give a quick shout out to Morphic, dealing nearly over 2,300 damage with 11 hits and 10 penetrations. And a T-54 lightweight on the move, that's pretty good.
It's impressive.
So there we go. There's the answer to the Maple Freedom question. Morphic's apparently the guy you want to look out for. And if you're going to pick somebody from them on your fantasy team, Morphic. So far, at least, we'll keep tabs on that as everything goes on. But I like the aggression from a defense on steps. And so far in the meta, we haven't seen that as something that's extremely important, because teams haven't figured out how to really break that camp yet. Yeah. With perhaps Elevate showing one of the stronger ways to do it. Just, hitting stuff with your artillery. Sure. Not that other teams haven't attempted to hit stuff with artillery, but they weren't able to deliver on it nearly as much as Arclit did. But now that they've shown a great position to take those M44 shots out on, really the only real counter you have to that on defense is an M44 of yourself, of your own. So it just kind of keeps going back and forth. But for now, where the meta is where it is, that was an interesting play from Maple Freedom.
Yeah, very aggressive, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's see if they can continue this aggressive play on defense as once again, Maple Freedom versus Team Isle on steps, our second battle, or our second matchup of the night. We're in, we're ready to go. And David, what do we got for our tanks?
Looks like the same lineups. Rival with an RU-251 5 T-54 lightweights and a T-37. Maple Freedom with a T-32 5 T-54 lightweights and a T-21, which amusingly looks slightly like a duck in its silhouette.
Yeah, and also, if you were to camouflage, there's just the basic camos on these tanks here, but maybe a bright orange duck camo wouldn't be the best, I guess, if you're trying to hide from an enemy. Over here, though, we do see a very different, actually a very similar lineup, I'm sorry, coming out from both of these teams. Maple sending a lot of these members down to that Eastern Valley. Team Rival coming themselves to the Eastern Valley, sending HK up top just like last time. Hole sitting back. Maybe just kind of a nice little flex position. There's some shots going on to Mr. Man. Nothing connecting yet. Urtai is spotted. Morphic, Bobby, and Mr. Man are spotted as well for the side of Maple Freedom. A little bit of damage going out there on the side of Morphic, and some shots going through now. Now, David, on these opening moves like this, where you have Rival doing the same thing again, what are they looking for to happen differently? Maybe getting a little bit more damage early on, or trying to force Maple Freedom out of there?
I don't know their strategy and what they're trying to achieve here well enough to really say what they're looking for. So I can discuss it in general, but not in specific for what they're trying to do right now. I'm guessing maybe coax out an aggressive response from defense, take advantage of any mistakes that are made. They're in definitely great positions to take advantage of anybody who tries to move into the south there. But it just seems to be their opener, which is generally kind of an intelligence gathering thing. You go into a position where you can defend yourself if rushed, but you can also gather information on where the enemy team is, so then you can make a decision with information instead of just kind of, a guess at it.
Sure.
And apparently their answer for what they do when they see that stuff is to move up the west and use Fnatic here in the middle. Or any tank here in the middle to kind of protect that spotting. So kind of a formula coming out from Rival, something they perhaps don't want to get in the habit of, as many teams, upon seeing this happen in this live broadcast, can kind of study their triggers, like what they're doing, when and why.
Sure.
And create a response they want. So just sort of waiting until perhaps Rival left the situation, taking over the south, coming in on their flank, or cutting them off as they go over the rail line. There's a dozen different ways of interrupting somebody's formula if you learn about it. But as is right now, Maple could, really just kind of do the same thing they did last time.
Yeah.
Once they see these positions get in there. But I hope Rival has come up with a better answer to what happened. And if I were Maple, I wouldn't try the same thing twice, just because it's kind of, you've got to assume that the enemy team has talked about how to handle it when you get them a second time around.
Yeah, one thing I also want to point out for Team Rival is they don't have World War II Fnatic or HK sitting back down in the southern end of the map to watch out for the flanks. Now, when you do that, when you so decisively decide to send all of your team into one position, you are kind of, aren't you, effectively also opening yourself up for a flank like that? And what would it take for Maple Freedom to find that out and respond to that?
They could send Felix out if he, I don't know so much about with the T-21, but if he were perhaps a T-37 or a 12T, an AMX 12T, he could do a lot of scouting runs and just systematically clear that out and make sure it's okay. But World War II Fnatic right now heading back in that general direction.
Yeah, there you go.
So
looks like the whole team is actually.
That's interesting. So Rival perhaps getting meta with what they were doing and trying to get Maple to do something similar. Or exactly the same, but either way, just spreading out Maple and trying to find that introduction they need to get an overmatch or an isolation on somebody, and take it all the way home.
It looks like they're staying a lot of their forces, only leaving HK and the Django for the side of Team Rival up there on that northern cap. The rest of the team coming back almost to their spawn positions and doing the exact same openings before. We'll see how they can respond to this. As they're putting cap pressure on. Maybe they're trying to trick Maple Freedom to send a lot of their forces again and try to come in for the flank. we'll see if it works. But as we talked about earlier, when you kill time on the side of offense, you're actually helping the defenders out. Unless you have, like we're talking about, some amazing meta play to go through.
This is very crafty, and it's about to kick off big time. But they're putting Cap. Their rival is putting cap pressure on to try and draw Maple Freedom's attention to the north, and they're moving in from the southeast in order to get a surprise attack. And here we go, Giggles in the open.
That's right, Giggles taking down a lot of damage. Urtai, though, getting some response. Maple Freedom now know what's going on, and they're sending a lot of their tanks back. Let's see if the Django and HK can make it in time as Giggles goes down. World War II Fanatic getting a nice pick up there, but Morphic going to respond by taking Urtai down. And now it's a 1-for-1 exchange back and forth. The brawl is happening, ladies and gentlemen, over here on this eastern cap in the valley, with HK maintaining cap pressure on, which is interesting. Looks like Felix is going to go try to respond to this as Django coming across the valley. He's going to come through, try to find some of these things if he can, but he has to be careful. If he pops up too soon, he will get absolutely lit up and annihilated by this entire team of Maple Freedom. He goes up, he pops back, some shots going into him, getting a little close to half. HK stepping off the western cap, and now the cap going on the side of the Eastern Valley. Morphic taking a lot of damage coming through. Maple Freedom going to try to responding. World War II Fanatics going to be the target. Let's see if they can take him down. Veggie looking for the kill. He's going to go. See, he does. He missed the shot. Mr. Man, though, picks it up beautifully. And now Anubis going to be a little bit out of position as he's pushing on the way through. Hall finding Morphic, a good pickup. And now back for back, one-on-one. And up on top of the T-37, the Django, though, finding Mr. Man. HK and Felix fighting it off as well. Anubis getting one more shot. He will go down to Bobby. But Hall again finding it back and forth. Team Rival are trying to maintain in this. They're clawing the way 4-3. Now 4-2. A great job. 4-1. Team Rival cleaning this game up. Doing a fantastic job finding the overmatches. A great pickup. Veggie going to get one more shot. But let's see if he can take it out. Valkyrie not going to. He's going to get a track instead of the damage. But Hall going to be the one to find it. Team Rival, a great response in finding Maple Freedom here. We talked about them getting meta, and it looks like they just did. Congratulations to them. Let's talk through about that, because a lot of time was killed. They did that opening eastern push. They decided to go back, go for that northern cap. Maple Freedom looks like, all right, they're doing the same thing again. They sent some tanks up, and then the whole flank around. When that battle ensued, though, it looked like HK was maintaining on the cap, so technically they had an overmatch. Maple Freedom was in their favor, correct?
Pretty much. I mean, the old World of Tanks switcheroo. You think everybody's trying to cap in the Northwest, but realistically, it's only one, maybe two tanks. I believe HK soloed Felix in what looked like a head-to-head with Felix in the T-21, HK in a T-37. I'd rather probably be in the T-37 myself, but that's what it was. Real quick before we run out of time, let us go to the stats, as there are some things worth noting. Valkyrie Vewas actually has binos on his tank, so he's not running the best setup just to do sniping, but he did great either way with 11 hits and 9 penetrations in his RU-251. Anubis following behind with 8 hits, 7 penetrations, and the Django after him. Meanwhile, over for Maple, Morphic again topping the list with Bobby coming in a close second. But as it was, that was just a nice feint maneuver by Rival, drawing attention into the northwestern area and coming in from the other side. I mean, it's nothing. I'm not gonna downplay it and say it's not smart.
Right.
It's not like some sort of amazing chess move that has like 7 layers to it, but you don't need that. You can keep it simple and keep it strategic in this instance, and they did a great job with that. Maple falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. Yeah,
going down, getting one, especially getting one pickup on offense on this map on steps is extremely well. We're into the third match, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see now. Team Rival going to be on the defensive side. Let's see if they can hold off for 2 more, or if Maple Freedom can, let's see, maybe trick Rival themselves with some crazy crafty maneuvers as we're in to our third matchup of the night. We have Team Rival versus Maple Freedom. David, walk us through. What do we got for tanks?
Rival with 2 T-32s and an RU-251, 3 T-54 lightweights and a T-37. Meanwhile, Maple Freedom, pretty simple, 6 T-54 lightweights and a T-21. They really like that T-21 over the T-37 for some reason. Be interested to hear that from them.
So now, coming from your perspective, why is that tank a little less desired than the T-30 or the T?
It could just be personal preference as to why they're choosing it. The T-21, I believe in this instance, has a slightly better gun for what they're trying to do. T-37 is a smaller, better scout in general. T-30 or T-21 is more of a fire support tank from what I remember. But, I haven't seen a whole lot of people using it so far. Perhaps I need to brush up on my T-21. I could discuss a little bit more about the AMX-12T and the T-37, but 12T's not here, so that would just be kind of random.
Sure. There's some shots coming up from Morphic here. We see this a lot too, David, as these tanks just sort of blind firing positions that they're expecting teams to be crossing over. When does that become? We kind of I think brushed on it a few episodes ago, but you're talking about when you as a pro player you can actually watch the tracers in the air, and if the shell kind of explodes and stops, and someone's there. I mean, how keen of an eye does that take to pull that sort of maneuver off?
It depends on how far away it is and whether it goes into bushes and whatnot. If you can notice a tracer disappearing into a bush from like 400 meters away, yeah, that's a pretty keen eye. But I mean, at a
Hawkeye,
if you're zoomed in pretty far, and you see one of your teammates' tracers not firing into a bush but just firing into the open, and it vanishes, it doesn't take a lot of skill to recognize that that's disappearing into a tank.
Sure.
Whether it did damage or not is a totally different story, but who cares? I mean, honestly, and that's one of the best things about artillery, and what artillery can be used for, is you can get information on things like breaks. So if they're driving through a city, you can see like their path of destruction as they're driving through, fences they break and whatnot. It's vital information.
Wow.
A lot of trading shots coming back and forth, but so far not a whole lot happening. Just kind of a classic cap reset situation. Shouldn't take long for Valkyrie or Fnatic to find where Felix is through blind fire, unless Felix is kind of dancing around on the backside of that cap, because they can with deductive reasoning realize he can't be anywhere on the front half of the cap, as they can actually see that. It's a very small part they can't see, and he can only be in one part of that. So if they work their fire in a pattern and Felix doesn't move too much, it's very easy to hit him. But from what I'm seeing, it does actually look like Felix is moving a little bit, which is smart. Nice way of avoiding all that.
Yeah, just getting extremely close each time, but like I said, nothing hitting means that the cap continues to build up on the side of Maple Freedom. And we have HK now coming through a nice little bit of damage, getting tracked. So it does reset the cap, so then now they got that pressure off. But like we're talking about, HK coming around on this H2 line, just going to push all the way up. Is that smart to do? How far does he push up until he's in danger? Or do you think he's just going to kind of sit back and
Well, as soon as he gets lit, he's in danger, as anybody can just peel off and go clean him up. But it depends on whether that's something that a rival wants. Yeah, if you send enough tanks to guarantee you can kill that T-37, or even one, a tier 8, then he can drag him out of the fight, and you can push the rest of your team to handle that. But HK, as long as he drives well, very minimal risk. Very minimal. Although, now he's getting cut off down the middle line.
Yep.
That's a nice trap by Maple if they, assuming they saw him.
They did, yeah, he was spotted. Yep.
And they know exactly what they're intending to do here. That's a very, very smart play.
Yeah, Felix getting off the cap, so stopping the pressure there, but now it looks like they have sent a lot of those members for Maple Freedom onto HK here. Let's see how Team Rival can respond to this, as we have Morphic, Mr. Man, and Veggie coming to cut him off. HK needs to be careful. He's walking himself right into a trap. He is spotted. Shots going out. Now the turrets are turning around here for HK. He's in a lot of trouble. 3 tanks versus the 1. He's just in a lowly T-37, and he will be cleaned up extremely quickly by Mr. Man. And it doesn't look like Rival have reacted quick enough to respond to this. The only benefit, I guess, for them technically was some downtime. But David, what does Rival now need to do to kind of compensate for that lost tank?
They can't. It's just in this situation,
do the same thing.
They may have been able to spare him.
Okay.
I suppose if they pick up Bobby in the north, that's kind of a compensation of its own. It's actually an advantageous trade, but it looks like they poked just a little bit to see him. Saw him too late, and now they're backing out. Meanwhile, Maple coming back up the middle. So clearly that was a move they made on purpose.
Yeah.
Directly. And what I mean by that is obviously anywhere they're moving on purpose. I'm not trying to insult them here. All I'm saying is, did they understand that they were going to be able to guaranteedly trap that T-37? Clearly, yes. I think that was the whole point of the move, and now they're coming back.
Wow,
they're trying to get directly on top of Rival, and if Rivals doesn't see it coming, this could pay out big time.
Let's see, as Maple Freedom know they have the overmatch. Looks like they're just going to try to take the fight to the defense. Coming over the hill, a shot goes to Morphic, 2 more shots, but now the rest of the team coming over as well. Flooding down, 1 more shot from Morphic actually, and he will go down. Let's see if they can pick it up. World War II Fnatic doing a great job there, and Hall making his way out in the T-54, finding good cover. And the battle has ensued. Shots going across all over the place. Mr. Man and the Django in a battle. Veggie picking up the Django, but Anubis going to respond by taking Veggie down. Now Anubis being surrounded by the tanks, but Valkyrie coming in, doing a great job picking up Mr. Man there. Trying to even out Giggles, though, finding Anubis, and now it's a 4-on-4. Back and forth shots going through, but Maple Freedom having the health advantage, but it's dropping quickly. One more shot, though, and Urtai will go down. Out of sight, and Bobby getting back-to-back kills, taking World War II Fnatic and Urtai down. Hall finding out of sight, now a 2v3. Giggles is extremely low, but Bobby and Felix are relatively healthy against the two tanks, Valkyrie in that T-32 and Hall in that T-54 lightweight. About one more shot. Here comes Felix coming in. Let's see if the coordination is here. Felix coming over the tie, taking a good shot from Hall. But Hall going to get someone's response. One more shot from Felix. He will take him down. Valkyrie, they're going to respond, but now it's just one more. Bobby going to find Valkyrie, and Maple Freedom getting a victory on offense as well against the side of Team Rival. And I mean, this is now back and forth. Let's kind of talk about, though, what happened there. We had Maple Freedom going for that Northern Cap. Team Rival doing a great job resetting that. HK getting spotted and getting caught out, and that seemed like that was a trigger that Maple Freedom wanted to just kind of send their tanks over the top.
You know, I really didn't think Maple Freedom was going to win that brawl they got into. They took so much damage on Morphic when he first came through that they almost gave back a tier 8 in exchange for that T-37. And honestly, in those kind of fights, I mean, it's not like the T-21 made a big difference. Didn't make a huge difference for Maple Freedom. So that was mostly just 6 tier 8s versus 6 tier 8s with more hit points on the side of Rival, and Rival lost it for I don't know if they just didn't shoot well or what the deal was, because it looked like they had everything going in their favor.
Okay.
And it just didn't work out for them.
Now,
I don't know, man. I guess I don't know. I'd have to watch it a couple times, because unless they found some sort of isolation that wasn't readily apparent to me, it looked like they were trapped in between two T-32s with backup. And several of them went down into the valley.
Yeah, made it out.
But still, a number of them were caught on top and essentially killed for it.
Sure.
I mean, I guess focus fire, probably the best answer. I mean, a lot of that went down so fast from an angle where I couldn't clearly see it. So it had to have just been focus fire.
Sure.
Is really the only way it can come down to some result like that, because Rival should have had it.
Okay. Now, looking, though, even though Maple Freedom had that tank advantage, if you are going to decide to push against your team like that, you know, the enemy team, hopefully having that 7-on-7 overmatch, you know, you would expect that team to do more damage. But like you're saying, Rival maybe, you know, should have won that one. We'll check out the focus fire maybe later in the rematch. But up next, ladies and gentlemen, right now we have Team Rival versus Maple Freedom, our 4th match on Steps. Maple Freedom once again on offense. Team Rival, let's see if they can tie it up 2-2 on defense here as we're right into this match. David, walk us through step by step. What do we got for tanks?
Rival with 2 T-32s, an RU-251, 3 T-54 lightweights, and a T-37. Meanwhile, Maple Freedom, 6 T-54 lightweights and a T-37, keeping them light and maneuverable and unpredictable on offense, which are all generally good things. Light is debatable, though it goes hand in hand with maneuverable.
Right,
so,
sure.
Right now, Rival, perhaps trying to make some sort of meta play.
Yeah, but it looks like...
Hold on. There's got to be a reason why they're doing this.
Maybe they're going to try to get to that A1 push-up spot? No, I don't know what they're doing, but Maple Freedom looks like they're not going to be there at all. And this might be really bad for Team Rival, as Maple Freedom has sent all 7 members over to this Eastern Valley cap. Just HK remains in that T-37. Hopefully he can get a spot for his team so Team Rival knows what's going on. And Maple Freedom just kind of pushing their way through and not finding any sort of, response. It looks like the base is empty. Everyone's been cleared out. Morphic has been spotted. Now the rest of the team now by HK up there in the corner. HK hasn't been spotted himself yet. Giggles and out of sight. It looks like they're going through. And now Team Rival know what's going on. But 3 members already on the cap, so it brings it down to 24 seconds and counting. The pressure's on. Team Rival need to get back and respond. We do, though, like we said, however, up on the hill, have HK, who just now, ladies and gentlemen, not there anymore, as it gets absolutely destroyed by the sides of Maple Freedom. Popped out for a second, got focus fire down. Veggie finding the Django, and Team Rival in a bad position here. 10 more seconds and 2 tanks down. Let's see if they can pull it out by having better focus fire here, but I'm not sure. As Anubis coming over the top, he's going to be the next one to be focused here as he pops over this little valley. A lot of shots going out. Gets extremely low. Only about 2% left. Is Bobby going to find him, that T-54 lightweight? Now, Bobby also finding Hull. Kills all over the place for the side of Maple Freedom. Team Rival dropping left and right. Urtai, Valkyrie, and World War II Fnatic, the only ones who are left with 10 seconds left. Maple Freedom doing a great job just cleaning up what seemed to be a disaster for the Team Rival, making that mistake, pushing him forward. 3 more seconds now, coming on down. 2 more seconds, 1 second left on the timer, and that's it. Maple Freedom gonna get the capture there, finding the victory, the 3rd victory against Team Rival here on Steps. David, let's talk about that for a second, because I am also confused at what Team Rival was doing. Do you think you can speak into that a little bit?
So actually what I was talking about at the very beginning of the match when I said they've got to be doing this for a reason.
Yeah.
I realized what that reason was, and I'm not talking about moving the T-32s west.
Okay.
All right? I'm not that we'll get to in a second.
Okay.
There were other things they were doing that I was a little bit confused about at the beginning, but I figured it out. I'm not going to spoil that little call yet.
Okay.
I want to see if anybody else starts kind of doing it before I point it out. Because I did actually speak. I remember speaking with a Rival member about this, and I offer all teams confidentiality about the things that they teach me about what they're doing, just to make sure that I'm not spoiling things, because I don't want to throw away their secrets,
sure,
right?
Absolutely.
However, maybe it's enough just pointing out there was a secret there. My bad. However, moving those T-32s into the west, huge gamble.
Yeah.
It didn't pay off in this situation. They're trying to set a trap, catch those T-54s as they came up and over. It didn't go that way. Maple, I mean, obviously, wisely. I mean, we
setting all 7.
I don't know how to place a judgment on that when it works so well, right?
Yeah.
They got over there. They didn't see anything. They kept pushing. They had all the cap pressure. It's just
it's free.
It was just an easy win for them.
Yeah.
They got Rival through that game. More than anything. I mean, obviously Maple put themselves in a position to win by a very aggressive play in the East.
Absolutely.
But Rival pushed 2 of their slowest tanks too far out of the fight, and that's a recipe for disaster right there.
Now, looking at when a team does this, when Rival goes, hey, we're going to have a gamble, we're going to set our tanks, we think we have a really good hunch that they're going to go over for this northern cap, and it doesn't work out. Is there a benefit to that? What are the reasons you would call that? Just based on how you saw your team playing before, or maybe studying their matches, or?
I mean, to put two T-32s over there, I think is just kind of a blanket mistake.
Okay.
They're not in a great place to do a lot of damage on anything unless that stuff is on the other side of the rail line from them. If they're on the same side of the rail line, you might as well have used T-54s because they can't be shot in the side of the turret. They're not tall enough to stick over. There's a big list of reasons why 54s would have been better to put over there as opposed to 32s. So I'm not even going to speculate on it. I'm just going to say it was just a bad decision, and it happens. It happens.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be into our fifth battle here. Maple Freedom versus Team Rival. Maple Freedom with a nice little lead, 3-1 against Rival. Let's see if they can, have a repeat of that Season 5 victory. If Rival can hopefully rival Maple Freedom in this, we are right into the battle. David, what do we got for tanks?
Rival likes this lineup. 2 5100s, 2 IS3s, 2 T54 lightweights, and a T37. A very good lineup for a defense. Meanwhile, Maple, 1 5100, 5 T54 lightweights, and a T37. Again, keeping it light and fast and hard to predict. If they can make Rival rotate around in the places they want, that'll pay out for them big time. However, if Rival has a strong defensive position and they know exactly what they want to do under a variety of circumstances, their lineup is superior for a defense, generally kind of superior in general, but if anything can kind of crack what's going on here, it is tricksy play from Maple Freedom and a number of T-54s. Hopefully they don't just sit on cap with them and they progressively move into this Delta Village area. If they do, and if they know how to play it well and Morphic can get into the right position, they can easily knock out anybody on the front line of Rival. Most important thing is to control that road. Rival's already across it. 15 seconds left on cap. I don't know if Aratai can get around to reset this.
Let's find out as he's going as fast as he can. The T-54 light. 10 more seconds remain. If he pops out, surely Maple Freedom should try to turn on their turrets there. Mr. Man doing a great job kind of keeping Hall at the bait. But the shots coming out from Delta Village, a great job getting the cap reset. Anubis taking a lot of damage. He has to back out there, but more damage looks like coming out for the side of Rival against Maple Freedom than they have responded. And Rival successfully has pushed them off of their cap. Rival doing a great job holding that Delta Village, getting a lot of good crossfire in there. Felix in that T-37. Maybe he's going to try to come around now and try to get HK, putting some pressure up on North. That pressure, though, now alerting HK that he's in some trouble. Felix coming around the corner, but Mr. Man dropping extremely low. Battles on both sides of these maps by both caps. Felix, like he will be the one to drive, but Urtai going to find Mr. Man first. Let's see if Felix can respond for his teammates to try to take out that T-37. No, he's going to back off. And now we just have kind of a stalemate here. 400 HP in the lead of Maple Freedom. That cap not working out for them so well, David.
I'd have to disagree with you there. I don't think that whole situation worked out for anybody exceptionally well, but if it worked out for one team more than the other, I'm going to have to go with Maple Freedom on this one. Even though they lost one of their tier 8s in that engagement, that is balanced by an IS-3 on Rival. Overall, just a lot less hit points on Rival, one of who is low enough is one of their 5100s, WW2 Fnatic.
Sure.
Just overall, this is a better position for Maple Freedom to be in with the tanks that they have. They've got several T-54 lightweights that are now pushing the 0 line. This is the exact angle they need to be taking in order to push into Delta Village and clear everything out. Provided they don't overplay their hand, this should be an easy win for them from here on out.
Out of sight, trying to cross, taking a lot of damage though. One more shot, or a couple more shots. He will go down. 916 damage. He's less than 1%. The Django gonna find him. But over on the other side, Urtai taking some damage. Looks like from Morphic there. So Maple Freedom trying to come in and now controlling this Delta Village of Django. A good chunk of damage is coming in from there. World War II Fnatic extremely low in that MX 100. And Giggles finding the Django, but World War II Fnatic finding Giggles himself. Morphic over on the side, trying to shoot down. Veggie gonna find HK over in the corner. And now Morphic doing his best to try to shoot and punish these IS-3s, but he himself taking a lot of damage. One more shot, but Bobby's going to find World War II Fnatic. Morphic getting out of there in an AMX 5100. Now Veggie, that T-54 lightweight extremely low, but Bobby in that T-54 very healthy. Anubis fighting Morphic. Veggie going to, though, find Anubis, and now one more tank remains for the side of Team Rival, David. It looks like you were right. Maple Freedom coming out on top here from that skirmish we had earlier on. Valkyrie, one more shot down. Bobby's going to be the one to have it first. Let's see if he will get the shot. No, it's going to be Veggie. Veggie's going to find it. And another pickup for Maple Freedom, extending that lead now 4-1 against Rival. That David walked me through because I'm a little confused. When that, we had Maple Freedom going onto that cap and put a lot of pressure. They were extremely aggressive. Got down to about it looked like 15 seconds. But then exchanges going all over. And when I saw Rival pushing Maple Freedom off the cap, I thought, oh, cool, that means Rival won. But explain to me why, that even you said if no one won, it would have been in Maple's favor.
Yeah, so Southern Cap is all about, obviously cap if you can, but any cap, but, more very, very importantly on Ruinberg in this situation, the Southern Cap is all about drawing the defense to come stop you from capping and then doing a lot of damage on them in return.
Okay.
So those T-54s were able to scatter, do a lot of damage to those 5100s, which are very soft. Needed better angles, the IS-3s, a little bit earlier response on Rival's part, and it would have been heavily in their favor. But they had to rush in a little bit too late. The hit points they lost to get those resets cost them too much. I believe it got all the way down to 10 seconds before an actual reset came out. But just in general, smart tactical play by Maple Freedom. A little bit better shooting, although there in the end, when I said as long as they don't overplay their hand, they came real close to overplaying their hand.
Dropped.
So when you get into Delta, one of the worst things you can do is just cross that dividing road, the F road.
Right in the center.
Cross it and stay in it, because then you don't really have anywhere to go if there's other tanks in there. You need to make sure you want to do some passive lighting across the bottom to make sure there's nothing there that can really rip you up if you cross it. You need to really know what you're stepping into, and you essentially divide it into quadrants and move and support each other by angles and side to side. Both 5100s for Rival could have gone down relatively easily if they had a little bit more map knowledge about where there are gaps in buildings to shoot through. I'm telling you, it's a very complex area, but it really pays to learn it. And a very nice first step from what I've seen, first step by Maple. But another match is kicking off here, I believe.
That's right. Maple Freedom just needing now one more victory against Team Rival to end out the night. Ladies and gentlemen, we're into the next battle. Team Rival still going to be on defense. Maple Freedom still on offense. And David, let's look at what we got for tanks.
Rival with two 5100s, two IS-3s, two T-54 lightweights, and a T-37. Maple with the same lineup as well, one 5100, five T-54 lightweights, and a T-37. When I say same lineup, I mean from last round.
Right.
Obviously, it's not the same side to side. But want to clarify one thing I was saying just a second ago about a nice first step for Maple Freedom in Delta Village. What I meant is not like their first step in the overall strategy of how to play Delta Village. What I mean is their initiation in how to get into Delta Village was the right first step.
Gotcha.
It was their following steps after that
were kind of sketchy.
Needed a little bit more work, but the same situation developing right now. Let's see if Rival has a better answer.
That's right. Putting more cap pressure again. Going for this Eastern cap. Mr. Man getting a nice little position there up on the side of Delta Village. Anuba's taking some damage here as we have Giggles and the other tank, I can't quite see his name, coming through, going against the T-54, backing Team Rival into Delta Village. The cap still on, now down to 20 seconds. Urtai, kind of a repeat, seeing like he's going to be the one to try to find a good angle to reset this hull, popping out in that IS-3. Let's see if Morphic in the AMX 3100, who actually is still on his reload. Urtai, though, going a little too close, taking a lot of damage, dropping a little bit above health, now below half health. Not getting the reset, but Maple Freedom maybe wisely backing off the cap. They did a lot of good damage. Mr. Man, though, in a little bit of a situation as he's kind of now surrounded as Team Rival coming in, pushing as Urtai and Anubis going through. Hull taking some damage, and we have shots going across. Anubis extremely low. One more shot, and he will go down. Let's see if Bobby can pick it up in that T-54. He does, but Urtai gonna respawn by taking Mr. Man down, and we have fights going all over the place. Veggie down there in that K8 line, doing some good amount of damage onto these IS-3 into Delta Village. Out of sight, going in, but Morphic finding Urtai. Felix finding HK. Maple Freedom doing a great job. Now trying to rein in at Rival. Rival trying to respond here, finding Hull. Hull taking Giggles down. Felix, though, finding another one, taking Valkyrie. And now just 3 tanks remain on the side of Rival, trying to surround this IS-3 here. But when they pop out, they have the other members of Maple Freedom on their backs. The Django taking a good amount of damage. He is now on reload, a long reload, may I remind you, on that AMX 5100. Out of sight, doing a great job just kind of dancing these 2 tanks from Rival back and forth, exposing them to their enemy. Felix doing a great job coming in for a flank haul. One more shot. Out of sight, looking like he's going to be the one to try to find it. No, he's going to go around trying to find the Django, getting a shot off there as Morphic and Felix, Bobby, everyone closing on Delta Village, trying to get the one more win. Veggie fighting Django, just 2 more tanks, and they will take it. World War II Fanatic dropping low. T-37 with that quick reload time, gonna find him, and now just Hull remains as Maple Freedom gonna pick it up, their 5th victory against Rival, doing a great job showing, again, they were the victors in the Season 5 Silver League against Rival, showing that they're just gonna do the same thing against this team, kind of rinse and repeat. But let's talk about kind of what you saw from there, because it looked like a lot more decisive play for Maple.
Yeah, Rival did a much better job of protecting their 5100s this time, and that could have paid out had they been able to get all 6 of their shots focused onto specific targets. But it looked to me like their shots kind of got sprayed around and spread too much out over Maple Freedom. So Maple Freedom made a very smart decision, moving those 2 T-54s up the 0 line continuously. Just so many smart decisions. Let's start out from the beginning. Them pushing onto the cap and then pulling away, getting the damage they wanted. Same thing they did last time. Rival fell for it. It worked perfectly. Then wrapping around, getting a little bit more snipe damage, poking and capitalizing on what 54s are better at, and then moving down the 0 line and closing everything up. Rival just kind of got overwhelmed, didn't have a cohesive plan for how to respond to it, and that's something, it's very hard to come back from a situation like that, just ad lib. It's something you need to sit down as a team and rehearse and think about exactly what you want to do.
When this happens, we do this.
Because if the other team gets you dancing to their tune like that, and there's so many different angles they can fight, you will lose. So unless you have a plan, you're not going to freestyle your way out of it. It's just not going to happen.
Sure. Well, we're talking about how Maple Freedom needed a win tonight, and they got it. 5-1 against Rival. Congratulations to them for that. Ladies and gentlemen, our 3rd matchup is going to be right up after this quick break. Elevate versus #